At just 24, Arif looked like a man who had already carried the weight of an entire lifetime. His eyes were heavy from sleepless nights, his shoulders bent under pressure no one could see, and his mind was never silent. Every morning he woke up with fear, a fear that whispered endless questions into his heart. What if I fail? What if I never become successful? What if my past mistakes destroy my future? Before his day even began, his thoughts had already defeated him. And every night, when the world around him finally became quiet, his mind became louder. He replayed every failure, every missed chance, every wrong decision, again and again, like a painful movie he couldn't stop watching. Then his thoughts would race into the future. He imagined disappointment. He imagined rejection. He imagined a life where all his efforts meant nothing. Slowly, overthinking became a prison. It stole his peace. It stole his confidence. It stole the joy from moments that should have made him smile. To everyone else, Arif looked normal. But inside, he was fighting a silent battle. A battle between fear and hope, between doubt and belief. And the hardest part? No one could see the war happening inside his mind. But deep within him, a small voice still whispered, "This is not the end of your story." Sometimes, the greatest battles are not fought in the outside world. They are fought silently within ourselves. And sometimes, winning begins with just one decision: to stop letting fear control your mind.
Just tap the subscribe button right here. And don't forget the bell for notifications. Thanks for subscribing.
One evening, Arif left the city and walked aimlessly. After a long walk, he reached a quiet lakeside. There, on an old wooden bench, sat an elderly man. He looked calm, deeply calm. The old man smiled and said, "You look like you're carrying too much weight." Arif sat beside him. "My mind never rests," he admitted. One evening, Arif sat quietly beside an old man under the fading golden light of sunset. His face was tired, his eyes filled with worry. The old man looked at him for a moment, then reached beside him and picked up a small cloth bag filled with sand. He placed it in Arif's hand and said softly, "Hold this." Arif held it and looked confused. The old man asked, "Is it heavy?" Arif shook his head. "No, not at all." The old man smiled and asked again, "What if you hold it for an hour?" Arif thought for a moment. "My arm would start to hurt." The old man nodded. Then he asked, "And what if you hold it all day?" Arif replied, "It would become unbearable. My arm would feel numb, exhausted, and painful." The old man smiled gently. Then he looked into Arif's eyes and said, "That is exactly how worry works." He paused for a moment and continued, "The problem is not how heavy the burden is. The problem is how long you choose to carry it. Hold your worries for a few moments and they may teach you something. Hold them for too long and they will drain your strength, steal your peace, and break your spirit." That day, Arif understood something powerful. Sometimes peace does not come from solving every problem. Sometimes it comes from learning when to let go. The old man dropped a dry leaf into the lake. It floated away with the current. "Life is like this water," he said. "You cannot control its flow, but you can learn how to move with it." Arif asked, "So should we stop trying?" The old man replied, "Do your best where action is possible, and release what is beyond your control. Your past is a lesson, not a prison." Arif sat silently staring at the ground. The old man's words about worry had touched his heart, but another question still weighed heavily on his mind. After a long pause, Arif finally looked up and asked softly, "But what about my mistakes? What about all the wrong choices I made, the opportunities I lost, the failures I cannot forget?" The old man looked at him with calm understanding. Then he began to tell a story. "There was once a man," he said, "who carried a bag of heavy stones everywhere he went. each stone represented one of his failures, one for every wrong decision, one for every missed chance, one for every regret. He believed carrying those stones made him wiser. He thought the weight would remind him never to fail again. But as the years passed, the bag became heavier. His steps became slower. His back became weaker. And instead of making him wiser, the burden only made him exhausted. The old man then turned to Arif and looked deeply into his eyes. With a gentle voice, he said, "Your past was never meant to be a prison. It was meant to be a teacher. Mistakes are not chains to drag behind you. They are lessons meant to guide you forward. If you keep carrying every regret, you will only weaken yourself. But if you learn from them and let them go, they will become the very wisdom that makes you stronger." At that moment, Arif understood. The past cannot be changed, but it can shape a better future. And sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is this: learn the lesson and keep walking forward. The old man looked at Arif and asked, "When you eat dinner, do you try to eat next month's meals too?" Arif laughed and replied, "Of course not." The old man smiled and said, "Then why are you trying to live your entire life in one day?" Arif fell silent. For years, he had been carrying tomorrow's worries, next year's fears, and a lifetime of pressure all at once. Then the old man said softly, "Life is meant to be lived one day at a time." That simple question changed everything, because Arif finally understood. Peace begins the moment we stop trying to carry the whole future at once. As the sun began to set, the old man said, "Peace is simple. Work on what you can change, accept what you cannot." Life is only complicated because we insist on controlling everything. That night, Arif's thoughts returned, but this time he asked himself, "Can I solve this right now?" If yes, he acted. If no, he let it go. Day by day, his peace returned. He began enjoying simple moments: morning sunlight, a warm cup of tea, a genuine conversation. And he finally understood. Peace doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from trusting its flow. Final message: sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply let go.
Just tap the subscribe button right here. And don't forget the bell for notifications. Thanks for subscribing.